I'm in the top 20k in the world on FPL right now.
What?
Let's take a look at my Game Week 2 score to see how I did it, as well as look at my transfer plans for Game Week 3 for Fantasy Premier League. Let's start off today's video by reviewing how we got on in Game Week 2 and how we actually got into the top 20k in the world. And it's a pretty easy question to answer because we triple captained Erling Haaland, of course, scoring 3 goals and getting all 3 bonus points. A monstrous game week for him, and of course the triple captainship carried me up all of those ranks. And of course, if you've kept the chip, there are going to be plenty other opportunities, if not better opportunities down the line for Erling Haaland, for Salah, for Saka, for these type of players who can really get big points totals. So do not worry if you've missed out on this triple captainship for Erling Haaland this week. There's going to be other chances, if not better, to use that chip. So that's all I'm going to say about Erling Haaland. I don't want to boast too much about him. Obviously, it was a really great move that I made late in my deadline stream that we kind of spoke about live on that stream. So if you were there, by the way, thank you very much for coming by. But I suppose we'll start down at the goalkeeper and work our way up. Just a quick review on how we did. So Henderson, 1 point. Where do I really stand on a Dean Henderson? How did he do? So Palace for me, just something's a little bit off. Something's quite not clicking in the final third. The defence at times look a little bit shaky. They still seem a solid squad. It's just the points aren't coming in for Henderson. And sort of when you look now at his fixtures coming up, you can maybe see in his next, 5 games, maybe 2 clean sheets, few save points. So yeah, I am massively put off Henderson as a goalkeeping option, but at 4.5 for a Palace defence who last season were really good defensively towards the end, maybe there's hope still there for Henderson, but for me, I'm starting to go a little bit off him. So I suppose that's where we stand on Dean Henderson. Trent Alexander-Arnold, I mean, I could spend an entire half an hour speaking about his role in this new Liverpool side, and I suppose there's a lot of key things I want to say about Trent, but I suppose I'll say this one thing. In the later stages of the second half, Trent Alexander-Arnold was playing left wing. Sorry, what? He's a right back. So, yeah, I don't know exactly why he was there, but he was there for quite a while. It seemed it was a purposeful tactical decision on either his part or Schlott's part, and whatever it is, it was really great to see. And of course, so many through balls, so many chances for Trent, and of course, a really good expected assists again at 0.53. Of course, in the first fixture, you got exactly 1 expected assist. But yeah, clean sheet again for Liverpool. Trent, for me, one of the best defenders to own in FPL at this current moment, in my opinion, even with that 7 million price tag. Of course, fixtures coming up for Trent, a little bit hit and miss. You know, you've got United away next fixture, which could be a great fixture, to be honest, but I can expect United to give them at least a good game. But Liverpool have been playing really well, and I can't see Trent moving in my side whatsoever. I suppose when we move now over to Pedro Porro, it becomes a bit of a more interesting conversation. You know, a 5.5 defender, there's sort of a lot of cheaper options starting to emerge in defence, so it is putting me off Pedro Porro, and of course I didn't want him past this sort of week anyway, because, you know, Newcastle, Arsenal, Brentford, Manchester United, then Brighton, the fixtures aren't great, and it's sort of the reason you're picking Pedro Porro, in my opinion, isn't for clean sheets. Obviously, we got one with Everton, which you could say was lucky, especially when you look at expected goals conceded for Pedro Porro. It's averaging about 1 expected goal conceded every game. So, yeah, the date is not too great. It's only 2 game weeks, so we can't judge too quickly. But I feel as though Pedro Porro is more about that attacking side, and I feel as though I didn't want him past this week anyway, so that's probably a point where I'll change in my team, and we'll speak about that as we go into my transfer plans for Game Week 3. Robinson, someone, of course, I really want to keep a hold of. Great fixtures coming up, and I did have a price rise to 4.6 million last night, so if you caught that price rise, amazing. If you didn't, I wouldn't worry about it too much, because look, if you go away from a Pedro Porro into a Robinson, of course you can do that move because Pedro Porro costs more than Robertson and still a cheap asset with these type of fixtures, coming up. I suppose great value in my opinion. So yeah, we'll see what happens with Robinson. Hopefully he can keep this kind of form going and Fulham can kind of get a little bit of a run behind them, but we'll sort of assess that when it comes to it. Salah actually hurt my rank. Obviously, people who didn't own Haaland captained Salah this game week. He did score a goal, as we'll see if we just look here. Brentford, goal scored, 1. It will tell you on the FPL website how the player did, sort of data and stuff. I tend to use Fantasy Football Hub because the data is much better presented, in my opinion. But yeah, he did hurt my rank, and it wasn't too bad. I don't mind when a player in my team does well, even if they do hurt my rank. So not too bad. I don't really mind it. But someone who did help my rank, obviously on the same side, on that Liverpool side against Brentford, this sort of triple has been really fun to own. Diogo Jota at 5.7 million. A bit of a little worry coming off in the 71st minute for Darwin Nunez. So maybe we can start to see, as I predicted at the start of the season, game week 3 is the week that Darwin Nunez comes in and starts to steal real minutes off Diogo Jota. If you watch my content and you've watched it from the start of the season, that was my prediction, and I think it's going to happen. I think Darwin and Gakpo are going to start to steal a much larger chunk of minutes away from a Diogo Jota. And with, I suppose, a Man United fixture away from home in, the next game, do you really want Jota up front? Or do you want someone a little bit more physical, someone who can have sort of a presence against the centre-backs of United? So, yeah, I suppose we'll wait and see what the lineup is for that Liverpool game. So I suppose that's all I really want to say about Diogo Jota. Hudson-Odoi, I mean, look, the first few fixtures that he had, I think, were good on paper, and I thought Forest would have a much better start to the Premier League season, but it's just kind of not worked out for Hudson-Odoi. I don't know if it's just Forest, if it's him, but yeah, there's not a lot going on for Forest. I suppose if you do want to own a Forest player, Gibbs White seems to be the one to own, and that might have been obvious at the start of the season, but of course I didn't have the money to upgrade Hudson-Odoi to Gibbs White. So yeah, obviously there's that to say, but yeah, a little bit disappointing from Hudson-Odoi. But the biggest disappointment of them all, Christopher Nkunku doesn't even start against Wolves, comes on for the last 10 minutes, and just all of the goals have already happened. Chelsea is so deflated when he comes on. No one wants to pass the ball to him. Oh, Hudson-Odoi's come up there. No one wants to pass the ball to him. Look, maybe at the start of the season was the wrong time to bring him in, but we didn't know that Pedro Neto was coming into Chelsea. We didn't know that João Felix was coming into Chelsea. So I think now, with the emergence of Madueke as well, minutes are going to be shared about in this Chelsea squad like crazy. I think the only player who you could say is nailed to get past 80 minutes in most games in that front lineup for Chelsea, it's got to be Palmer. But at 10.5 million, a lot of people can't stretch to sort of that price point without a big wild card or a few hits, unless you already have them, of course. But yeah, sort of Christopher Nkunku, for me, really disappointing. I love Nkunku as a player, and I'd love to keep owning him, but of course he did leave my squad last night, and I'll sort of talk about that in the next bit of the transfer plans video. So yeah, that's all I really want to say on Christopher Nkunku. I suppose we'll pair up Isak and Hall because they're both playing in a dysfunctional Newcastle side. Something's just not clicking with these boys, and I really don't know what it is. My friends who are all Newcastle fans, of course, I'm a Sunderland fan, my friends are Newcastle fans. I always ask them about Newcastle, how they're getting on, how's Isak playing, does Gordon look positive? And my friends just really aren't happy at the moment as Newcastle fans, and I can sort of understand why. Apparently Isak has been playing, okay in terms of, himself and individual performance, but Newcastle as a whole, they just haven't had a great start to the season. And maybe, going into the next few weeks, you've got Spurs, you've got a Fulham side who look quite good. Obviously, City. It's really only Everton and Wolves in the next sort of chunk of games that really are appealing for an Isak. So, yeah, I suppose Isak's another one of my targets to leave the squad. There's a lot of players in this team who I want to get rid of, and I will speak a little bit more about that in the next part of the video. But let's quickly dust off this part with Pedro Porro. Pedro Porro? Yao Pedro. You can tell I've been up to 1 a.m. Planning this video. So, yeah, great performance from himself. I feel as though if his right winger Minter wasn't so wasteful with chances, Yao Pedro could have come out with something really big in this match. I watched the match personally, and he holds amazing space within the box and outside the box. He finds the space when them fast wingers are cutting in, the Matomas, the Minters, the Adingras when he does come on. But it's just finding them, and I feel as though Minter, especially in that game, was very wasteful in the final third. So that does worry me as sort of an issue going forward, but I feel as though as Minter starts to refine his game a little bit more, shares a few minutes with Adingra, I think Yao Pedro again, he's going to be an amazing option this season. I can really just feel it. And to last little point, Hall starting left back, not anymore it seems. So Lloyd Kelly did play and start against Bournemouth, his former club. So what do we do with Hall? I think Hall's a sell. He's definitely not a bring in. There's a lot of competition now for the left-back position, especially if Newcastle bring in a new centre-back, because you've got Byrne, Kelly and Byrne all going for the left-back spot. So, yeah, big red flag for Hall. But let's stop this and talk about my transfer plans going in to game week 3 to see how I can stay in the top 20k at least. So, yeah, let's move on. Right, let's have a look at my transfer plans for game week 3 onwards. Now, you'll see straight away something that might surprise you. After having such a beautiful game week last week, why the hell have you activated your wildcard FPL mode? Well, let me tell you. I mean, after we got the results and we knew how many points that I got in the rank I was so happy. But then I looked at the squad you've seen obviously on the previous screen there, and I was like, I would only keep 4 of these people in my team if I wildcarded right now. And I sort of tinkered with it all through the night, staying up quite late, which obviously isn't a good idea. But yeah, tinkering, researching, and looking at wildcard 3. And I thought, look, this could actually be a viable strategy for my team. Because, look, I had 0 Arsenal. 0, and it was a big risk, of course, going with Haaland and Salah. It paid off in the way I expected it to pay off, in terms of having a great captain for game week 1 and being able to have Haaland for that Ipswich fixture. It paid off massively, and of course a little few points from some other assets cheaper in my team, you know, made up that difference as well. But now with this wildcard, I want to get a few Arsenal in. I want some of the cheaper options that are emerging. I want some of these good fixture players who are going to come up and, in my opinion, probably do quite well for their squad. So let's kind of talk about some of the players I've kind of brought in on this draft and why. Obviously, this isn't a final draft. I made this at 1 a.m, so a lot of these players could change if I'm being really honest with you. But let's talk about some of the players who are really interesting, who I've brought in because, you know, I'm not too happy with the other players in my squad. The likes of Nkunku, Hudson-Odoi, Dean Henderson. I mean, the list goes on. I wasn't happy with a lot of my team. But Nedeljkovic is the big talking point, in my opinion. A £4 million starting defender for Aston Villa with these fixtures. It sounds amazing. You want to put him in, but we don't really know much about this Matty Cash injury yet. So, obviously, if you're just using free transfers, I don't think it's someone you should really be bringing in right now. Obviously, if the price rise comes, you might be tempted, but I wouldn't really make that move until we get more information on Matty Cash. Of course, if we get the news that Cash is injured for a bit of a longer period of time, maybe the next few weeks. I mean, the next 4 weeks, look at that. Unbelievable fixtures. Probably some of the best fixtures. I mean, the Aston Villa fixture run from game week 3, I would say, is probably the best fixture run you'll get for the, you know, next 4 to 5 weeks. So, yeah, for me, starting left back for Villa, possibly if Matty Cash is injured. Someone else who I brought in, who obviously plays for the same side with that great fixture run, is Morgan Rogers. 5 million. When I watched him against Arsenal, we have a great player on our hands here for 5 million. But honestly, this is so cheap for a great player. Now, there is a worry now. Jacob Ramsey has got a little bit of fitness in his legs for Villa that he kind of takes a little few minutes off Rodgers here and there, but he's played 90 for 2 weeks now, and Emery has spoke highly about him as well as he has with Nedeljkovic there. So yeah, a good sign in my opinion for someone who's going to be really, really great going forward in FPL. Johan Wissa was kind of catching my eye a little bit, not necessarily in the Liverpool match. Obviously, you can see his data here. Nothing really went for Brentford in that game. Liverpool were just absolutely phenomenal. But I think the fixtures coming up should tell you a little bit of why I've brought him in. Obviously, game week 3, great fixture. 4 and 5 aren't good fixtures, but I'll show you why that doesn't matter in the next player. 6, 7, 8, 9. Look, there's some good fixtures in this chunk here, but obviously, why are you bringing him in if you're only going to play him once in the next few weeks? Of course, we have João Pedro to fill that gap. 4 and 5, the fixtures I wouldn't start Wissa in. Ipswich at home, Forest at home, for a penalty taker for a Brighton side who are attacking really well. I think that kind of pairing and that rotation would work quite well. I'm not too sure if I will go for it. Maybe Wissa gets downgraded, so I can maybe upgrade a Jota in my midfield to somebody else. But yeah, I was really quite excited with that rotation I found there of Wissa and a João Pedro up top. So of course, because I don't really want to play him João Pedro Arsenal away from home, because look, Arsenal are going to be really defensively strong in this home fixture. Of course, that's why Raya has been put in my team there. I did have Martinez, but I had 0.5 extra in the budget to upgrade him. So yeah, great saves against Aston Villa, of course. Watkins, by the way, must have triple Arsenal defence, because honestly, he could have scored a hat-trick in that game, Watkins. I kid you not, he should have scored a hat-trick. So, yeah, something's going on with Watkins. I don't know what it is, and maybe that's why you can see he's not in this squad here. But, yeah, great world-class saves from Raya. The Arsenal defence, so solid, and it is scary not owning them, and especially, game week 2, I didn't have any Arsenal defence, any Arsenal attack, any Arsenal players at all, and now I have 2 in Saka and Raya. Let's talk about Saka, though. Look, fixtures over the next few aren't great. Up to 11, you've got kind of 4, 5 aren't great fixtures, 9, not a great fixture. Sort of Newcastle and Chelsea there are red fixtures with a 4 difficulty rating. I wouldn't agree with that. I would say Newcastle away from home, Chelsea away from home are more of maybe a 3 difficulty rating fixture for an Arsenal side who are looking really, really good. But yeah, it's Bukayo Saka. I think he's starting to become fixture proof in a way I didn't expect, and that's what's scaring me so much about not owning Arsenal players. Arsenal look like the best team in the league right now. If you were to ask me who's going to win the league right now, I would say Arsenal. They just look like the most well put together team. They've got their tactics set and correct straight from the start of the season. So yeah, I think it's really important now that I look into Arsenal, kind of get some of their assets for the next few weeks and kind of play with it in terms of Saka. Do I want Saka? Do I want maybe a cheaper option in Trossard for 1 week and then move off sort of Trossard for 4 and 5 and then back on to maybe Saka from 6? So there's so many options I can do on this wildcard. Personally, I think wildcarding in game week 3 was correct for my team. My team for game week 3, the way I had it planned, I just really, really wasn't happy. And I want to have fun with FPL. I want to make it my own game. I don't want to follow the templates. And yeah, that's why I've wildcarded in game week 3. Let me know what you kind of think of this draft. Of course, this isn't the final draft. It's kind of just something I made on the spot to get some price rises and also bring in some great players that I do want to have on my wildcard 3. But yeah, let me know what you think of wildcard in game week 3. As always, I want to end the video by giving you at home a big thank you for supporting the FPL Mogs YouTube channel. The growth over the past few weeks for my channel has been absolutely fantastic. So yeah, massive thank you for you guys for supporting me at home. And of course, if you aren't subscribed at this point now and you have enjoyed today's video, please consider dropping a subscribe. And hopefully these videos are keeping you up to date with all things FPL and are improving you as an FPL manager. But that is everything for today's video. Thank you so much for watching again, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye for now.